Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Leah Anathan. I'm the CMO of Muse, and I'm joined by Matt, who is our CEO, and I'll let him introduce himself in a moment. The theme for this webinar series is Hospitality Insights, What's in Store for 2024. And we love that there's a little rhyme to it. But this feels like the right week to sort of take stock of what's happened over this past year for those of us who are living and breathing all things hospitality and all things hospitality technology. This was quite a year. And it's a nice moment to reflect. It's a nice moment to look ahead and see what's coming at us. We are joined today by an incredible group of both panelists and speakers, and it's going to be a wide-ranging conversation. This is the first of two events. The next one is on the 12th. At each one of our sessions that we're hosting, Matt, myself, Tim, and Olivia are going to be about 20 to 25 minutes. So they're nice little short snippets of great content from some great people. We are so lucky to have this group with us today. I mean, the topics are going to range from, of course, AI to the latest with the hospitality management schools, all things product and tech, what's on the horizon in terms of innovations. Just some great people, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their topics, because I have been told we need to keep this short, and I'm not good at abbreviated formats. I do like to talk, so we're gonna get into this. I'm gonna kick this off actually with Matt. I was joking earlier that we were going to do my annual review in front of everybody, but we won't do that. We're going to talk we're going to talk all things hospitality between the two of us, because
how did you think you performed this year?
I thought it was a solid year, Matt, with some room for improvements, as always. I wanted to there was a bunch of us who said, you know what, we're going to take the questions we're asking of all of our experts and start with you, because you really do live and breathe this every single day. And I like turning the table on you as well. It's fun for me and for everybody who's working on this event. But I wanted to also just give a sense of everyone. We're going to ask a very similar set of questions of all of our panelists. So we'll kick this off with you, Matt, and say, to start out with, what predictions did you make going into this year that came true? And I have an idea, but I don't know exactly what you're going to say. But what did you predict that you felt came true?
It's always hard to make those predictions. And I think, having been working with Muse for the last 11 years, we've seen a huge shift that in the moment you don't appreciate, but actually if you look back, you see what's changed in the industry. I think the biggest accelerator we've seen in the last few years, and COVID started 3 years ago, it's been a while since it started, but one of the things we saw was this acceleration of hoteliers realizing that actually something is broken in our industry, and it's the legacy platforms that you have to migrate off. One of the worries I had is that once hotels reopened, which is really only happened, about a year ago, we started seeing hotels reopen at pace and start to really fill up. One of my worries was that the innovation was going to stop again because hotels were busy, but luckily that didn't happen. Like, we saw that a lot of hoteliers were continuing the innovation journey, and we've seen that mobility of movement, which is an important thing, because we are really bad at moving up into the cloud and really driving innovation because we're so busy being busy. But actually 2023 showed that we reached this pivotal moments with Muse where we grew with some of the early adopters. I'm excited to work with Claudia in about 20 minutes, who's been one of our early adopters, who was very early to jump onto Muse. But actually we saw a real shift, and we saw that shift come from more traditional markets. So we've seen a market like Germany, which is a very slow market to adopt to new tech, really jump in. And I think that's one of the things that excites me when I see real movement and I see excitement from hoteliers. If I take that to a smaller thing, if I look at a small feature that I get excited about the details, because I'm a hotelier and I've stood at that reception desk and I know the impact of some of these things. one of the things that I loved seeing come to reality this year was the ability to charge for early arrival. It's one of those pains in hotels where you land off a US flight and then you get to the hotel at 9 a.m. and then you're told to store your luggage and come back in 6 hours. And I've always been really frustrated about that because I do a lot of travel up and down to the US, and then you arrive and then you're just wandering around the city aimlessly, feeling like you could have used a shower. So we introduced this feature on our kiosk, which is basically if you arrive early and we can figure out through the system to find you a clean room, to say, hey, for 20, 30 euros, would you be willing to pay for early access? Like you get access to a room for 6 hours earlier. It's worth some money. The adoption of that has been really interesting, and it's actually beyond my expectations. It's been really adopted, and that's one of those little things that I get a lot of pleasure out of, seeing one of these frustrations that I've had being in a hotel really come to life and adding value for guests, but also for hoteliers.
Yeah, I know, it's really interesting, and it's completely different from what I thought you would say, but it is true that there has been a slowness to the industry that is shifting. I thought you might talk about our ability to predict guest bookings, because every year we have to do this calculation because all the guests are booking on Muse, and we have to come up with this complex formula of how much volume do we think is going to be coming through the system in terms of bookings. And I'm always amazed that there's a group of people within this business who are like a think tank and are really accurate at being able to predict a volume of guest bookings on our platform that is remarkably accurate. And it's in the hundreds of millions, and in terms of volumes of bookings. And I'm amazed, but I think their ability to predict this year has been incredible, and they've been remarkably accurate as well. I think the deviation from plan is just tiny on a very huge volume.
But like we went into the year, like we had to, like every hotel out there, you have to make a prediction of what's going to happen next year because the owners of the hotel want that. And it's the same for us. We just do this at a scale. We've now got 5,000 customers live on Muse. So we need to know what the impact of the economy is going to be, travel. And it's a really hard prediction to make, but it's we've just made one for next year again. Last year, going into the year, we predicted a 5% RevPAR pickup. And actually, that's really come true. We saw a very, very strong Q1 because last year Q1 was still Omicron. We were in the middle of
it's hard to imagine,
but we were in the middle of that crisis still. So the Q1 was really solid, and then you saw Q2 an overachievement versus the last year. We do see in Q3 that there is a drop off. Like you do see that leisure travel drops off a little bit more than expected, but corporate travel has come back strong after the summer. So it's holding strong in terms of RevPAR in line with last year, but mostly driven by ADR, whereas occupancy is a little bit behind.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So coming to the second question, what did you expect to happen that didn't happen?
Like being in tech, and when you release features, you always think, oh, we're going to release this feature and then thousands of hotels are going to adopt it overnight, and it's going to make such an impact. And it's one of those things that I'm learning that it's actually really hard to get hotels to adopt some of the new features that we release. And it's almost a learning that I'm taking, that on our product marketing side, and I'm sure you have an opinion on this as well, we need to really figure out how do we get hotels excited about some of the brilliant things that we've deployed. There's this one feature that we deployed this year. We obviously brought in a point of sale last year. And what we wanted to do is really close the loop of that guest experience in the hotel. And one of the things that I find frustrating in a hotel is that whenever I'm at the pool, I can never find a waiter when I want a beer, or when I'm in my room wanting room service, I have to pick up the phone, and Gen Z doesn't pick up phones to speak to humans anymore. Nor do I. I'm a millennial, squarely in the millennial phase, but we have this ability to print a QR code and you can just order directly from your smartphone, which is the thing that we all do now with Uber Eats and Deliveroo. And it really hasn't gotten the adoption yet. And it's basically telling me that we need to get better at product marketing and making sure that hoteliers understand how to implement that in a hotel, because it actually is really, really exciting. But it's one of those things that just takes a lot more time and education on our side. And that hopefully next year will really get that right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's hard because I'm looking at the number of people who are here today and feeling really grateful for that. The industry we work in is one where people are on the go all day long, and they're on their feet and they're moving around, and capturing your attention and also changing behaviors is quite hard. So I think one of the things we're learning is, if we want to capture everybody's attention, we need to do it just a few times during the year, but make it very impactful for everyone, because I think that's it. It's about capturing attention, making sure that we have something really valuable to communicate, but on the other side of it, also really thinking about the times of year in which you want to take stock throughout the year of what your processes are in the hotels and how they can be optimized and improved. So it's not just the status quo for 365 days a year. So I think it's a real partnership between our community and ourselves.
And I'm sure that people are wondering, like, they're like, is he wearing makeup? And like, yes, I am wearing makeup. I've just come off a video shoot where we had to basically talk through some of the biggest features of this past year that really excited us, that we wanted to make sure that land really well. So we've just done a video shoot. So yes, I am wearing makeup, but it's because I want to look really good on the camera for you. And that video should drop soon.
I really feel like I missed an opportunity to say right from the beginning how fabulous you look today. And
Great.
really well done, you. The lighting in particular is just fantastic. My annual review is in a week. What was the big surprise this year for you? What surprised you above all?
Like, how tired I could get from talking about AI. I think a year ago, no one was excited about it. Like, we all talked about it, but it's been transformational. But I'm also almost zoned out about it. But I think it's an important conversation to have, because whilst we see OpenAI having a real impact, we haven't seen the impact of AI directly inside products. And it's one of the things that we're ferociously working on. Really embedding AI in our products, that it could have a genuine impact for our customers. So I am a little bit exhausted with the news. Whenever I see a newsletter, I'm like, right, I get it. But it is absolutely core that businesses adopt AI, because it is transformational. Internally, we use it all the time, like for anything. I use it because it just speeds up the way that I can deliver some of my best thinking, because a lot of the thoughts I'm creating have been created by other people, and it's a really good source to just help facilitate that. So AI, and I'm glad that we have Microsoft coming up, so we'll actually talk a lot more about this. The other thing has been around hybrid travel. You see post-pandemic that people really blend their business and leisure stays, but also the rise of apart hotels or extended stay hotels. You see all the big brands, that's where they're investing in, because the interest rates are really high at the moment, and it means that hotel companies are not really building hotels as we speak. The only thing that is being built, or that's getting a lot of excitement, is this extended stay or the apart hotel segment. And it's because travelers, they want a room that's multi-purpose, that isn't just a bed with a very uncomfortable desk and bad coffee. They want rooms that has a decent kitchen in it, but also a workspace that you can work from, but then also great facilities. And that's really a trend that continues, especially as companies lean into hybrid work and allowing work from anywhere. People are starting to travel, and you'll meet with Tim in a bit. He relocated to Japan for a couple months and just worked from there, and no one noticed it, that he was in a different time zone, because work just continued, and we adopted to async work. And it's really exciting that that's a trend that's happening. We just need to figure out, how do hotels jump into that, and I think that's really one of those things that we're leaning into.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on both of those points. And the comment about AI is, is one of the top questions from our board of directors, which is, what's the impact? And it feels a bit like driverless cars in this stage of, we know it's coming, but it's early stage, but we know how big this could be, but it's still early stage, and we're all working through it. But you can see things, I can see in my world, areas like SEO are going to be turned upside down by what's happening with ChatGPT and the integration into search. There are entire areas like translation that are just never going to be the same again. And it's coming at us. We just have to figure out how to make it very practical, usable, and applicable in the right situations. And yes, even my own team is in now 9 countries. We hire for talent first, location second. And it's now permanent, this way of hybrid working. And when we get together, it's so lovely, because we get together in our customers' hotels. and we have our offsites there and we have our meetings there. And it's a great way to be really closely connected to what we do, who we serve, and the people we work with all at the same time. And I love it. And I'm so glad we're not going back. It's a really amazing development. I think we'll go to our last question, because I can see there's some questions coming up, and we will try to address those through live chat. So we will both Matt and I will have a chance to jump in, as well as our colleagues. But Matt, if I could ask you, what are you looking forward to this year? What are you most excited about, other than a long nap somewhere around Christmas, because you've been going nonstop and I have too. But what are you looking forward to in 24?
Look, one of the things that I just talked about, which is this hybrid, we've been for years building in the background. We called it initially space-time, where we diversified this typical standard, let's sell rooms in hotels. And we really invested into product teams that build all the functionality so that we can sell anytime units. We can sell per hour, per day, per night, per month. So that you have any time unit, but also you diversify the spaces. So, rooms, beds, but even dorms, floors, meeting rooms, co-working spaces, parking. And that infrastructure was built in the last few years. But the next layer to that is what's now coming to fruition, which is seeing integration partners integrate, like companies like Deus integrating, or different parking companies integrating, so that actually, yes, you can maybe have your parking in the same system as the PMS, but we want your parking to be full year round. And we don't want the parking to rely only on your hotel guests. If I can make sure that you fill that maybe with residents in the neighborhood, by putting a booking engine on your website, and you can connecting that to an online service, that's when it gets really exciting. And I think we're starting to really see Muse become this platform that sits at the core, and that you then integrate with different partners that drive demand. Like with your hotel rooms, you get demand from Booking.com and Expedia. It's the same when you have a co-working space or day use rooms or parking spaces. We need to connect you to the world to fill those spaces to the max. And a lot of hotels will be like, well, I don't have money to kind of reinvest into turning my lobby into a co-working space or making it more flexible. And we've just struck up a fantastic partnership with Uland so that we do revenue-based financing. And I think that's a really exciting thing. If you're like, I need funding to make sure that I turn my lobby around to create this supply, and then connect that to the larger network. So we really have a full circle moment when all of this work that we've done for the last 3 years to build the architecture now becomes a real product that drives incremental revenue for hotels. And I'm hoping that that will be the biggest success next year.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at these business models where you're opening up a hotel, not just to travelers who are staying with you, but anybody, and really looking at with very fresh eyes at the entire physical space that you have. I think, just commenting one small thing on the parking, it's interesting to see Tesla strike up a partnership, and I think it was with the Hilton hotel groups this year, because they see these hotels as places where people with EV cars can go and charge batteries. And, that maybe somebody logically will then stay at the hotel, or maybe not, but it's a reason for somebody to come to your whole hotel. And I think it provokes the question, how can I get people to come to this hotel for any number of reasons, including staying here?
Yeah, I think this is saying, I think, build it and they will come. And I don't think that's always true. Like, build it and they will come if you have good marketing behind it. Like, you need to really make sure that you've got it mapped out, but then really have a strategy towards how do you drive demand for it. And you can't just put parking on your website and then assume that there's traffic on your website for people looking for parking spaces. So you definitely need some pieces to that puzzle, and we're trying to help there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really exciting. Personally, if I can just add in what I'm looking forward to the most next year, is spending more time with our customers and our partners. And we're kicking off the year the right way. We're having one of our meetings at the Wythe Hotel in Brooklyn, and it's a gem of a hotel. We pick multiple locations throughout the year to meet, and it's the right start to the year, which we need to get out of our building, out of our houses, and be with our customers and partners. And that's why I love, having these types of events, because it's just a nice way to stay connected. But I would like to see people more and be in person.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt, so much for joining for this first part. It was a nice way to warm up and to get rolling.